David?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Mel?
Yes.
Isam?
Yes.
Andrew? We do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Item 4 is a motion to approve the minutes from August 18.
I'll second the motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve minutes August 18, 2016.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
The other thing that I'm going to do is, for all motions, we're going to have the public comment before the board discussion on that motion. So, any public comment on the motion to approve the minutes of August 18? Yes,
David Balin.
David Bale.
No worries, hold on.
Heard a Bale voice in that end of the table.
All right, no public comment from the board.
I noticed some typos. I mean, they're minimal on these notes, but I thought that maybe we should address them before we approve them. I think it's important to have it be grammatically correct. I didn't even bother with punctuation because it's pretty sloppy. But on page 2, where it says Andrew Crown recently ran for a seat on the PRNC board back in June, but stated he was just 2 votes shy. Do you see that paragraph? 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs in. The second sentence says, Mr. Crown says that he has demonstrated his comment. It should be commitment to the PRNC board. The paragraph after that, where it says David Lasher stated that he ran, in that first sentence it says for the PRNC board. Toward the end it says, Mr. Lasher feels like this is a serious issue that needs to be addressed. It should be addressed. Also in that same paragraph, the second sentence, Mr. Lasher is a former Marine, and you're missing a word in there. It should be and if appointed. And I think that's it for changes.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment? All right, do we need to amend the motion? No, we can vote on the motion to approve the minutes with the comments made, the edits made. Okay, can we have a phone? Sorry. Sure.
I just want to make sure, this was the meeting where we did not have quorum, is that correct?
All right. Yes, no, this was not, the meeting that we did not have a quorum was the meeting before that. Thank you. All right, can you do the call?
This is to approve the minutes August 18, 2016. Sherry? Susan? Jennifer?
Yes.
Mel?
I have to stay.
Alex?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Andrew? Becky?
I was not at the meeting, so I
Gabriel? Yes. Isam?
Yes.
6 yeses.
All right. I'm sorry? Item 5.
Item 5, motion to approve minutes August 24, 2016.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, public comments? On the motion to approve the August 24 minutes? All right, board comments? Any board comments on the motion to approve the minutes? All right. Do the call.
Becky? August 24. Cherry? Andrew?
Yes.
Mel?
Then I have to abstain.
Abstain? Alex?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Gabriel? Yes. Isam?
Yes.
8 yes.
How did that?
All right, thank you.
She abstained.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is, thank you. By the way,
Oh,
bef-
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Oh, she did vote yes.
yes. I know people are preparing these cards, and that's great. I just want to ask you, if you have more than one item to speak on, I'd like, if you don't mind, to have separate cards for each motion, because these get filed with the motion. So please, if you want to speak about more than one item, put a card for each one. I know it's a little more trouble, but it helps us organize our paperwork. Okay, the next item on the agenda, we have the Air Quality Management District. Our guests to speak to us about the work that they have been doing regarding the abatement order to SoCal Gas. I was also asked to let everybody know that this Saturday there is a hearing board meeting at the Hilton in Woodland Hills. If you need any information on that, please ask us later and we can give you that information. It's on Saturday, and it's the paperwork, the flyer is over there. So I'm going to pass the mic to Dr. Jason Lowe. Dr. Lowe, many of you have seen him in many previous meetings, and he has been with us for a long time. Just want to say he's going to give us a brief presentation. We have sent him a number of questions from the board, and he's going to try to address those as much as he can. We will also open the floor for public questions, and I ask you to kindly, since I can't ask you more than that, to focus the questions and the comments on the content, on the context of what they are doing. And if you have other opinions or comments that you would like to make, that you'd like the hearing board to make, he's not the one to take to the hearing board. You would need to take him to the hearing board on Saturday. So, Jason, thank you very much for coming, and the mic is yours.
Great, thank you very much for the introduction. So, as mentioned, I've been in several meetings before, so I hopefully am a familiar face to you. But for those who do not know me, my name is Jason Lowe. I was formerly the Atmospheric Measurements Manager at South Coast AQMD. I am currently in the role of the Assistant Deputy Executive Officer for the Monitoring Analysis Division in the Science Technology Advancement. So it is actually one role higher than my previous role. So today I was asked to kind of give a status update with regards to our Board of Abatement with SoCal Gas. It's a preview of what may be discussed on Saturday's hearing board meeting, which I have information on my last slide, so that way you can take that down. And as mentioned, there's flyers here, so appreciate that. So just to kind of give a general background of what a order of abatement and what the hearing board is. The order of abatement is basically an action that requires a company operating outside compliance of the AQMD rules, and basically has to take certain actions or face being shut down. And this is a remedy reserved for ongoing violations to the district rules. Who decides this is the South Coast AQMD Hearing Board. And what they are a quasi-judicial board that is selected from the AQMD, but they act independently from AQMD and its board. So with regards to, sorry. So there's the definitions, apologize for that. So with regards to hearing board activity, the case was first reserved for public comment starting in early January, and there were several instances of where public commentary was being presented in front of the hearing board until finally the hearing board had entered an order of abatement with SoCal Gas on January 23rd. From January 23rd, there have been several hearing board updates relative to the compliance of that order of abatement. And what I'm going to do is present the current status of that order of abatement, including all the provisions and conditions that were part of that order. So there were 13, as I mentioned, and I'll quickly go through the ones that were already completed, because what I really want to do is focus tonight on are the ones that are ongoing and the ones that are most of concern, I believe, to the community as presented in the hearing boards, this council. So I'm just going to quickly go through this slide, which covers the first 7. The first one being the FLIR camera. This was an order to have daily FLIR camera imagery of SS25 and to ensure that there was no ongoing leak from that particular well. And I should kind of give some background to this particular order, because the order of abatement specifically was focused on well SS25. It was not focused on the entire facility. It does not mean that there's not other action relative to the facility, because there is, and I'll kind of expand on that later. But as far as this order, it was very specific to the SS25 leak. So the FLIR camera was specific for SS25. However, AQMD did use the FLIR camera to look at other wells that were on the facility. So condition 2 was posting of SoCal Gas air monitoring data. SoCal Gas hired a contractor to collect some data along with the other agencies, South Coast AQMD, and also the California Air Resources Board, along with LAUSD and LA Department of Public Health. So they were required under this order to post their monitoring results, as well as the other agencies that I mentioned. They voluntarily, of course, posted the results for the public. Condition 3, probably the most important, was to permanently seal SS25, which was done and confirmed by Dogger on February 18th. Order 4 was stop injection until SS25 was sealed, and notify relative agencies if they were going to do any further injections. And from there, they had to receive conditions from CPUC, the Public Utilities Commission, if they were to inject any more gas into the reservoir. Condition 5 was to provide information regarding the estimated natural gas injected to the underground reservoir, and that was just to make sure that there was no further gases being injected, and also to estimate the amounts of natural gas that may have escaped. And then kind of a sister provision, Order 6, was to provide information regarding natural gas being withdrawn from each well. So again, to try to establish that mass balance of how much natural gas was being released into the atmosphere itself. Condition 7 was to provide information relative to the natural gas escape from the well. There's other information that can help us estimate that, to kind of estimate some of the impacts. So all of those were being completed. So as we move forward with the other orders, I'm going to go briefly over it here, and then I'll go into more detail in the next slides. So with order number 8, which is submitting a plan for an enhanced leak detection and reporting well inspection program, that is ongoing. Basically, they have submitted a plan which was reviewed, and we suggested some comments, and that process is still ongoing. There's condition 9, which is providing written reports of the joint SED and Dogger factual investigation. And this investigation was one where Dogger, who are the experts in well integrity investigations, they were going to look into a root cause analysis of what happened to SS25 and provide recommendations on whether what happened, and then potentially figure out recommendations on what to do with some of the other wells. Order number 10 is to submit continuous air monitoring plan for approval. I will definitely get more into detail about that in future slides. And then order 11 is the emergency response plan submittal, which they've done. But I think of interest is the air quality notification plan, and that is also under review and ongoing. Condition 12 is a health study, which there are a lot of questions on, and currently right now, just to give you a note, currently we are contested on that particular item, and I'll definitely tell you about that later. And then 13, prevent use of odor suppressant, and that was completed already. So focusing in on the enhanced leak detection, too fast. Enhanced leak detection while inspection program. So I think on the last hearing board meeting, the draft plan was released. And much of this was to basically cover a leak detection program that was more comprehensive than the one that was existing for SoCal Gas. So it was to cover all the active and also the abandoned wells, and then to make sure that those were all being inspected on a regular basis, and they had a proactive maintenance program. And then it had elements specifically related to air emissions. A lot of the elements in that plan were based upon a proposed California Air Resources Board rulemaking efforts. And there were questions, I believe, last time of, what classifies leak? And that was one of, I think, the major concerns. And the provision that went inside this particular document is listed in this table, in which the equipment leak classification was that it would be 2 levels. One, a smaller level, which was under 50,000 ppm methane detected, and one that are greater than 50,000 ppm. So I know we've gone back and forth with parts of this particular condition, and currently, as far as I know, this condition is staying. It's consistent with the California Air Resources Board ruling. So this particular provision is currently as stated in there. With regards to the air quality notification program, this is also an ongoing process where they are submitting a notification program to say if they were to have some sort of, if they were to have some sort of event, that the community would be notified. Now, there was some concern before in terms of the connection of the previous document, which was the leak inspection program at the 50,000 ppm, and how that would constitute the community being informed. I do want to say in this particular document, this one was changed. Instead of the leak as determined by the leak investigation program, it was to tie it to some of the community monitoring that will be required under a recent provision that was won in court in the criminal investigation for SoCal Gas. I'll get into that a little bit later, but essentially the summary of that is that this week it was announced that SoCal Gas, under its criminal court case, was required to implement some fence line monitoring on the south side of its border. I believe, so what we're doing is we're tying the notification program to those monitors. And we don't know the full details of it because it's a criminal case and those details aren't privy to us, but we are going to try to see if we can have some input on the types of monitoring that would be conducted as part of that. So I think that is good news, as far as tying it to emissions that would be crossing the boundary line. So I think that is a good step forward. So with regards to the health study, so this is unfortunately where things have stalled, and again, we're contested on this particular point. AQMD and SoCal Gas, we have not come to agreement relative to the scope and the cost of an appropriate health study for an event like this. At the last hearing board meeting, it was indicated that this action was going to depend some legislation activity that was being passed at the state level. However, that legislation did not pass. So AQMD instead now is filing a claim with Superior Court against the gas company regarding this health study to see if the court would help decide in favor of what our opinion is. And independently, we're not going to wait for that court case. We are still seeking an independent panel of health experts to kind of determine that scope that would be appropriate for this health study. So that's kind of the ongoing action. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean that there's anything immediate, but we are kind of pursuing different avenues right now for that health study. So with regards to the air monitoring plan, there was indication that air monitoring would be conducted in the community, and then there was some air monitoring that was being conducted nearby on the facility. So the air monitoring plan was released on the website. Again, there's the link there relative to the plan. and it has a phased approach. And the phased approach has different phases where initially, when the leak was going on and immediately after the leak, there was a strong monitoring presence. And then as the levels were consistently shown below what we consider typical, then some of those resources can be pulled. And I can show you kind of the efforts of where some of the shifting of resources has been devoted. So it doesn't mean that we've taken away effort relative to looking at monitoring. We've just kind of shifted it a little bit, and I'll get more into that as we go along. But to kind of give you the concept of it, so to the right is, or to your left, is the total amount of monitors in that kind of phase one. So there's 4 different phases. What's depicted up on this graph is phases 1 through 3, where the left is phase 1, and it shows kind of the levels on top of the hourly concentration of methane. Below that is the number of kind of fixed sites that were collecting air samples, and these were samples that were collecting 24-hour integrated samples on a periodic basis. And then below that, in the green, is the number of continuous and the type of continuous monitors that were being deployed in that particular phase. And below that is the inspection frequency, where we had the deferred camera, as well as our mobile methane monitor platform that would go into the facility and also in the surrounding community. So in the period that was immediately after the leak, which was our phase 1, we had what was depicted there on the left-hand side. And as those concentrations stabilized over a long period of time, some of the monitors and frequencies were reduced, which was called phase 2. And some of the questions are asking where we're at right now, which is phase 3, which is the one that's mostly to the right. The concentrations has stabilized over time, and I'll show also the number of complaints has stabilized over time. But to let you know that the as needed right now is still twice weekly for both for the mobile monitor. So this was the kind of original design of phase 1. So you can see that we had a spread of different sites, with the well being where the red X is. We had 3 sites that were collected samples by the SoCal Gas contractor to kind of look to see what kind of concentrations were in at levels that were immediately downwind of SS25. And then in green are, the light green are the AQMD fixed site monitors that were deployed during the time. And then the ones in blue are the perimeter monitors that were being run by the SoCal Gas contractor. And then there were other community monitors that were deployed. So when looking at the complaints before the leak was sealed, we had a total of over 2,300 complaints in total from October 24th. However, after the leak was declared sealed, we would get an order of complaints from 0 to 2 typically, with exception for one day on April 13th, we received over 40 complaints. We actually had field staff here at the time who were conducting work at their monitoring trailers that went out here. And as soon as we received about 20 complaints, I asked my staff to go out there and just drive around and see if they could smell anything. So as complaints were still going in, even though the inspector hadn't reached some of the complainants, the technical staff that I had outside unfortunately did not report anything that they could find in their route. So again, on average, we're still seeing from 0 to 2 complaints that are being reported. Unfortunately, none of them have been verified, but it doesn't mean that you're not smelling it. It means that it's very fleeting, and it's very much a problem that we've had in terms of having a complaint reported. It's not always consistent. It sometimes lasts for a couple minutes, sometimes it lasts for 30 seconds, but that unfortunately is the nature of reporting the complaints. I mean, that's why, from the monitoring perspective, the monitors are running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's nice having that backup system in place. And speaking of the data, here's the methane data. So on the left, here's the methane data. So on the left is the monitors that were deployed during the leak. And you can see that the elevated concentrations, and these are hourly methane concentrations. The levels of methane were definitely much higher than after the leak was sealed. So you can see the concentrations drop down, and that doesn't mean that they've gone down, to zero. I mean, there is a certain level of methane that's expected in the atmosphere. It's a long-lived compound. So that's why AQMD and ARB developed the criteria by which the remaining data could be examined. And those criteria were based upon methane, benzene, hydrogen sulfide, the FLIR camera results, and some of the flight information. So, even though they've dropped significantly, I know that there's concerns about some lower level elevations, but you can see relatively to where the levels were during the leak, they're much lower. So I know that there's other agencies or organizations conducting measurements, and some of the questions that were asked is relative to that, or have we compared some of our data, have we outreached to some of them, and we have. And we're going to be looking at a more heavier data set, but there was one in particular that the board had submitted, so I just wanted to provide some data for comparison. So, on September 6th in the morning, there was reported by Argus Scientific, which is deployed near the fence line about 200 meters away from one of our stations. There was, a short-term elevation of methane at 5 ppm. And again, our conditions were set, at least for hourly, at 4 ppm, instantaneous at 5. So this was at a level that was close to where we thought maybe fluctuations could be, but this is a 5-minute average. So, there are certain fluctuations that can be expected. We did see a small signature in the same time frame at our monitors, both at the school and also at the one that's at the activity center that's close by here too. So at least with regards to this elevation that was presented, it seems like there's some consistency that there could be some levels of methane that were observed. We're working with them to look at some of the rest of the data. They don't have all their data online, but they've indicated that they'll submit their data to us so we can do a comparison. They know where to get our data because it's available online at the ARB site, so they could also do that in a comparison. But just at least with this set of data showing that elevation, was good to see that we have consistency between our results. And then looking at the past couple days, I've noticed that both of our results are pretty much that flat line in between the elevations. So our mobile platform is still going out. As you may have noticed in the phase diagram, the as needed was depicted in the mobile platform. However, we thought that the mobile platform had a lot of use because it was still seeing just little minor elevated methane on site. So we thought it was still good to be able to point out if there was any like overground pipes or if there was anything that we saw that we could provide guidance for SoCal Gas